Growing up in New York City has been an exciting adventure. I've always lived on the Lower East Side, where everyone takes great pride in our community. We love showing it off. As a kid, I felt important and special living here. I used to nod to the police officer on our block, and when he nodded back, it made me feel like a real big shot. Living in such a bustling city means you see all kinds of unusual things. You never know what to expect. Sometimes it's joyful and fun, like the huge parades and New Year's celebrations. Other times it's loud and a bit bothersome, especially when sirens blare through the night, making it hard to sleep. The city is always full of surprises. One of my earliest memories of witnessing something odd happened while I was biking with my friend. It was a scorching hot day, and our air conditioner at home had stopped working. Biking around the neighborhood was the only way to catch a bit of a breeze and escape the stifling heat. August in the city can be unbearable, with the sun's rays bouncing off the pavement and buildings, making everything feel even hotter. This first odd encounter is not as strange as the one I'm about to share, but it's a good place to start. So my friend and I were pedaling our bikes as fast as we could, trying to cool off. The streets were almost empty because most people were inside trying to stay cool. We were racing each other, laughing and having a great time, when something caught my eye. It was a small, shiny object lying on the sidewalk. I stopped to pick it up and saw that it was a silver key with intricate designs carved into it. My friend and I looked at each other, puzzled. We wondered who it belonged to and what it might open. We decided to keep it, thinking it might be useful one day, or maybe we could find its owner. That key turned out to be the start of a series of unusual events. It wasn't just any key. We soon discovered it had a story of its own, one that would lead us on an adventure through the city's hidden secrets, but that's a tale for another time. This was just the beginning of our journey into the unexpected wonders of New York City. One sunny afternoon, while my friend and I were biking around the neighborhood, I noticed something unusual in the storm drain. There were two yellow lights that seemed to be floating, staring right at us. It reminded me of that scary clown from the movie, It. But it wasn't a clown, just two glowing yellow eyes. I was riding fast and didn't get a good look at it. As a kid, I didn't think much of it, but the memory came rushing back after a more recent encounter. That bike incident happened about 20 years ago. After high school, I got a pretty good job right away. I never went to college because studying was really hard for me. Maybe I have a learning disability or something like that. Sometimes I wonder if there's something different about me that makes me see these strange things. Anyway, I'm trying to find a reason that makes sense. But now here's the big story. Right out of high school, I started working for the New York City Sewer Utility. It wasn't the most pleasant job, but it came with health insurance, which was important because my mom needed medicine for her blood pressure. We didn't have much money growing up, so I was glad I could help her. Over time, I got better at my job, and my bosses noticed my hard work. They say hard work pays off, and it certainly did for me. I got promoted to an inspector, which meant I worked mostly by myself. I didn't mind being alone, and I took pride in doing my job well. One day, while I was inspecting a section of the sewer, I came across something strange. It was dark and quiet down there, with only the sound of dripping water echoing through the tunnels. As I walked further in, I saw something that made me stop in my tracks. There in the shadows were those same yellow eyes I had seen years ago while biking. The eyes were watching me from a dark corner. I felt a shiver run through me, but I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. I knew I had to find out what it was. Slowly, I moved closer, shining my flashlight into the darkness. The yellow eyes blinked, and I saw a small, furry creature. It looked a bit like a raccoon, but there was something different about it. It seemed almost magical, like it didn't quite belong there. The creature stared at me for a moment before scurrying away into the shadows. I stood there, amazed and curious about what I had just seen. I knew this was no ordinary animal, and I couldn't wait to learn more about it. This encounter made me realize that the city still had many secrets, and I was eager to discover them. New York City has a special kind of sewer system called a combined sewer. About 60% of all the sewers in the city are part of this combined system. This means that all the small sewers and drains from buildings connect to one very large pipe. I spent a lot of time alone in those big pipes, making sure they were ready for big storms like when Superstorm Sandy hit. One day, I was in one of these big combined drains, just like any other day. I was working quickly because I wanted to finish early so I could take my mom to the doctor. It hadn't rained in a week or two, so it was surprising to see so much water in the sewer. There were 2 or 3 extra feet of water, which was the first strange thing I noticed. The second strange thing I noticed was that something was moving in the water. I had dealt with this kind of thing before. Sometimes people's pets, like cats, fall down a drain or a raccoon gets stuck. They end up splashing around and I have to call animal control to help rescue them. That's what I thought was causing the ripples in the water. As I moved closer, shining my flashlight on the water, I saw more ripples and splashes. The movement was too big for a cat or raccoon. It seemed like something much larger was in the water. I stood still, watching carefully. My heart was beating faster because I didn't know what it could be. Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw something. It wasn't a cat or a raccoon. It was a strange creature with glowing yellow eyes, just like the ones I had seen years ago while biking. The creature looked at me for a moment before disappearing into the water. I was amazed and curious about what I had seen. I wanted to know more about this mysterious creature and why it was in the sewer. It was clear that the city had many secrets, and I was determined to uncover them. This encounter made me realize that even in the familiar places, there are still surprises waiting to be discovered. It's quite dark down in those sewers, but I could tell that whatever was moving in the water was much bigger than a raccoon. I tried to shine my flashlight on it, and when I did, I saw something very unusual. It was scaly and spiny, moving quickly through the water. I stood still, frozen in place, as stories about alligators in the sewers filled my mind. I kept my flashlight beam on it and watched as it swam down the sewer tunnel. Eventually, it moved at an angle where I couldn't see it anymore. There was a lot of debris in the water, so I started to second-guess myself, thinking maybe it was just a branch or something. But then I saw something that made me sure it wasn't just debris. Do you remember those yellow eyes I saw as a kid looking at me from the sewer? I saw them again, but this time there were more of them. About 100 feet away in the darkness, I saw not 1 but 5 pairs of yellow eyes staring straight at me. They were all looking directly at me, and I was sure I saw one of them blink. I have never moved so fast in my life. I rushed through the sewer tunnel, climbed up the ladder, ran across the parking lot, and jumped into my truck. My heart was pounding as I sat there, trying to catch my breath. I called another inspector to check out the tunnel with me, but he said he didn't see anything. This experience made me question my own mind. I couldn't find any explanation for what I saw. The city is full of surprises, and sometimes those surprises are hard to understand, but I know what I saw, and it was something I'll never forget. I don't usually believe in strange stories or unexplained events. People can show me all the evidence and mysterious happenings they want, but I'm not convinced. I've always been like this and thought I always would be. However, I have to admit that something very unusual happened to me once. I saw something that I can't explain or identify. Maybe that makes me unsure, or even a bit contradictory, but I can only tell you what happened and let you decide what to think. My family owns a condo in Colorado and we visit it regularly. We usually go there once a year for a vacation at the base of a mountain, and when we're not there, we rent it out to other people. Using Airbnb makes this very easy. In the past, we used to go to the condo for family trips. We would all travel together and go skiing if the weather was good. As we grew older, our lives got busier, and we started visiting the condo separately. It became a special place for each of us to escape from our busy lives. Whenever things felt overwhelming, we could go to Colorado and relax. A few years ago, I went to the condo by myself. It was during the snowy season, and I decided to go hiking alone. This wasn't unusual for me, as I liked to explore the tourist-friendly trails. I had been to the area so many times that I didn't feel like a tourist anymore. The sky was covered with thick clouds, but there wasn't much snow falling. Because of the cloudy weather, there weren't many people on the mountain, so I had it mostly to myself. As I hiked up the mountain, it got colder and grayer. Most people didn't enjoy this kind of weather, so they stayed away. I was looking for some peace and quiet, hoping that the fresh air would help clear my mind. Looking back, I realized that was a silly thought. I had no idea what I was about to find. While walking alone, I discovered something truly unexpected. I slipped as I approached the summit of the mountain. I sprained my ankle, which was not smart, but sometimes these things happen. It wasn't so bad that I couldn't move, but it hurt enough that I needed to rest. So I sat down in the snow and decided to give myself 20 minutes to rest my leg before heading back down. From where I sat, I could see the slope of the mountain and the town below. I could even spot the building where my condo was. My car was just a tiny dot in the parking lot. I had climbed pretty high. Even though my ankle was hurting, taking a deep breath and enjoying the view made me feel a bit better. Suddenly, something hit the ground beside me. It sank into the snow, leaving a little hole where it had landed before being covered up again. What was that? Before I could turn around to see, another white clump hit the snow, disappearing just like the first one. Was it a snowball? My siblings and I used to tease each other by throwing snowballs, so I found myself smiling as I turned around. I was already thinking of explaining that I thought I was alone up here. I expected to see a family or maybe a kid who had thrown the snowballs, but no one was there. "Hello?" I called out. My voice drifted across the snow, but there was no reply. Then another snowball came flying toward me. This one was close, and I had to duck to avoid it. I hit the ground and gasped, spitting out some snow that had gotten into my mouth. I tried to look up from where I was lying in the snow, wondering who or what was throwing these snowballs. Further up the mountain, higher than I could have expected, I saw a single figure. It was about 60 yards away. It didn't make sense to see anyone up there. The shape looked gray and just stood there. Unless it was someone in Arctic camouflage, I was seeing something that didn't belong. I shouted for them to stop throwing things and stood up again. They weren't throwing snowballs anymore. Instead, they started moving toward me. They were running fast, sprinting even. What I thought was gray clothing was moving strangely with each step. It wasn't clothes. It looked like hair or fur covering their entire body. As they got closer, the dim light from the overcast sky revealed more details. Their face had a fierce expression. They were scowling with lips curled back to show sharp fangs. Their nostrils flared, and their eyebrows were thick and tense. This wasn't a person. It moved like a human, but was much taller and heavier, like something from ancient times. I realized I was looking at a creature covered in fur from head to toe, and it was coming straight for me. My heart raced as I tried to figure out what to do next. I turned and ran as fast as I could. I fell, scrambled to get back up, and kept running. My ankle hurt badly, but I ignored the pain. I did my best to hurry down the mountain while staying in control. I would have rolled down if it meant getting away from that thing. Whatever it was, I knew it was chasing me. I knew it wanted me off the mountain. I didn't want to think about what would happen if it caught me. How far could it throw me, I wondered. Then I heard someone shouting. I turned toward the voice and saw a pair of snowboarders on a nearby ridge. I stumbled toward them, almost collapsing into their arms. They asked what was wrong, and I pointed back up the mountain. I tried to show them where the creature was, but it was hard to see anything in the snow. The creature seemed to blend in with the snow, or maybe it had turned back. The snowboarders wanted to go check it out, to see if there was anything there. I pulled them back, desperate for them to understand the danger. They must have seen how serious I was because they decided not to go after it. They helped me get back to safety. Once we were safe, I told someone what had happened. I went back to my condo with a hot bowl of soup and a drink to help me forget the day. I'm still not sure if I believe in strange creatures, but that's because I don't know what I saw. Until I know what that thing was, how can I say for sure? Maybe it was just a trick of the Colorado snow, but then again, maybe it wasn't. Working in the subway is not like a typical 9 to 5 job. It's more of a whenever the trains are running kind of shift. The city never sleeps, they say, and neither do the subways. My job is with the maintenance crew down in the tunnels of Boston's oldest lines. These tunnels are so old the bricks could probably tell you some amazing stories from the 1900s. I usually don't believe in ghost stories. I mean, working underground, you hear all sorts of noises. There are rats scurrying around, old pipes making strange sounds, and sometimes you even hear echoes of people laughing. But one night the noises were different from usual. I was near the Park Street station, where the green and red lines cross. There's a part of the tunnel down there that not many people want to visit, even the most experienced workers. We got a call over the radio about some power problems, lights flickering on and off, that sort of thing. So it was my turn to check it out. I grabbed my flashlight and toolkit. It was just past midnight, long after most of the commuters had gone home, with only the last few night trains passing through. The tunnel was damp that day, more than usual. The air felt heavy, like it does before a big storm when the sky looks like it's about to open up. Everyone kept saying it was because of the high humidity. The lights in the tunnel are acting strangely. They dim and then suddenly become very bright, almost as if they might burst. I walk along the track, being very careful because the third rail is dangerous and can hurt you badly if you touch it. When I get to the spot where the lights are acting up, I start working. I'm checking the cables and connectors, trying to figure out what's wrong. Suddenly, without any warning, the lights go out completely. It's pitch black and I can't see my own hands in front of my face. Usually the backup lights turn on when this happens, but they don't this time. It's just me, the darkness, and the silence. Then I hear a sound. It's not a rat or the noise of the trains. It's a growl, a low and scary sound that makes me feel like I'm in danger, like being cornered by a wild animal. I turn on my headlamp, and the light flickers, probably because I'm shaking. The beam cuts through the darkness, and in the shadows I see eyes. They aren't small rat eyes, and they aren't human eyes either. They are red and glowing like the end of a cigarette in a dark room, and they are staring right at me. My heart starts beating very fast, and I know I should leave, but my legs feel like they are glued to the ground. The growl gets louder, which means whatever is making that noise is getting closer. I realize I need to get out of there, and I finally manage to move my legs, and I start to back up slowly, never taking my eyes off those glowing red eyes. I'm thinking this is it. Some subway beast is going to be the end of me. No more hanging out with friends after work, no more talking about the Red Sox, no more anything. I would have given up all the bad habits in that moment just to be safe. So there I am, thinking about all the things I won't get to do anymore. But I'm not ready to become just a memory of a guy who worked in the subway. I'm not usually a person who believes in luck or spirits, but right then, I'm silently asking for help from every saint I can remember. That's when I hear the distant rumble of a train starting up. It's not supposed to be here yet. I was supposed to have some time on a free track, but here it is, coming down the line. The sound gets louder, the rails start to move and squeak with the vibration, and I'm thinking, okay, this is my chance. The light, the noise, and the size of the train should scare off anything, right? Animals don't like lights and noise, so I'm standing there, waiting, and hoping this will all be over. The train's light grows brighter as it gets closer, and the noise becomes almost deafening. I keep my eyes on those red eyes in the dark, and just as the train is about to reach me, the eyes disappear. The growling stops, and all I can hear is the roar of the train. I let out a huge breath I didn't realize I was holding. The train rushes past, and when it's gone, the backup lights finally come on. The tunnel is dimly lit, but it's enough to see that whatever was there is now gone. My legs feel like jelly, but I managed to make my way back to the main tunnel. I never found out what those eyes belonged to, and I never want to. All I know is that I was lucky to get out of there. The train rounds the corner, its headlight cutting through the darkness, and for a second I'm relieved. But then I notice that the eyes don't move at all. They stay unblinking, not scared at all. That's when I realize this thing isn't afraid. The train's coming fast, and I'm stuck in the middle of the tracks, caught between the train and those eyes. At the very last second, I jump out of the way, pressing myself against the tunnel wall. The train rushes past, a blur of motion and noise. I'm pressed so tight against the wall I can feel every brick digging into my back from the change in pressure as it speeds by. The wind from the train's passing is like a slap, bringing me back to reality. When the last car passes, the eyes are gone. The tunnel's just a tunnel again. The air feels normal, just damp, and I'm just a guy who should have been hit by a train but wasn't. I radio in to say the power's back on because, strangely, the glitch fixed itself. Then I notice the silence. It's too quiet. No rats, no dripping water, no distant sounds from above. I shake off the feeling, pick up my tools, and start walking back. I keep looking over my shoulder every few seconds. When I finally get out of there and climb up into the night air, I feel like I can breathe again. But something feels different. It's like I'm a kid again, suddenly afraid of the dark. I can't forget those eyes or the sound of that growl that wasn't a growl. I try to tell myself it's just from too much coffee, but deep down I know it was something else. So that's the beginning of something I can't explain, something that makes me question everything I thought I knew. I keep it to myself, but every time I clock in, I wonder if tonight's the night I'll hear that growl again, see those red eyes watching me again. And I can't help but wonder, what was it waiting for? What would have happened if that train hadn't been early? Throughout my long career as a home caregiver, I've looked after many people in their homes. They called it home health aide or something else, but back when I started, there weren't as many fancy titles. In the homes of the sick and dying, strange things sometimes happen. It often felt like I was trailing behind some mystery, always reacting to strange events instead of preventing them. My job included a lot of tasks: cleaning, shopping, cooking, and helping with personal care like bathing and dressing. But I wasn't there to give medicine or do medical treatments. My clients were either okay enough to not need constant medical care or were very sick and chose not to have any more treatment. My company called them long-term or short-term patients, which might sound a bit harsh, but it was just a way to describe things. Let me tell you about one of the stories from my time as a caregiver. It's about a short-term patient and a dog. I didn't usually take care of pets as part of my job. By the time I came to someone's home, they usually knew they couldn't take care of an animal anymore. But this time was different. When I arrived at the house, I used the key my company gave me and called out as I was told. The woman who lived there had trouble hearing, so I had to speak loudly. Most of the time, I found her in her room, moving between her recliner and bed with a walker. She was thin and pale, with tight curls of white hair, and always wore elegant earrings. Now, her appearance might sound a bit odd when I say greenish-looking, but it's because of her condition. What was really strange, though, was her earrings. Every day she wore a different pair, and I never knew where they came from. But the weirdest thing was the dog. After my first day of work, when I went to leave, there was a big black dog waiting outside. It dashed away before I could see it clearly. I figured it was just a neighborhood dog. Things went on as usual for a while. I cooked, cleaned, and helped her with daily tasks. Then one night I heard the sound of claws on the kitchen floor. I ran to see, but there was no dog. I checked the windows and doors, but they were all locked. The next day, my client was even sicker. She stayed in bed all day. One evening, after putting her to bed, I saw the dog again. This time it was inside the house, waiting at the end of the hallway. It looked like a retriever, but with matted black fur. When I tried to approach it, it vanished. I tried to find out where it was coming from, but nobody knew. Animal control even checked the house, but they found nothing. Then one night, I saw the dog on my client's chest, but when I turned on the light, it disappeared. I was so shocked. I decided to ask for a transfer the next day. I still wonder what happened to that lady, but one thing's for sure. Taking care of pets wasn't in my job description, and neither was chasing ghosts. I've got a really interesting story to tell you about something I saw not too long ago. I live in a small town in Kansas, and one morning I had to wake up early to go to the DMV because my driver's license had expired. As I was driving, something unusual caught my eye. Up in the sky, there was this massive object descending rapidly. At first, I thought it might be a plane, but it didn't look like any plane I'd ever seen. I started to panic a bit. Was it some kind of emergency? Was it going to crash? I felt like I should call for help, but I was also curious to see what was happening. The closer it got, the clearer it became that this was no ordinary aircraft. It looked like something out of a science fiction movie, all sleek and futuristic. I couldn't resist following it, even though I was already late for my appointment. So I sped up and headed towards where I saw it go down. When I arrived at the crash site, though, there was nothing there except a big hole in the ground. I was puzzled and a bit disappointed, but then I noticed some strange rocks scattered around. I gathered them up and showed them to my friend Tom, who knows a lot about rocks. He said they were meteorites, which are rocks from outer space. Can you believe it? Now here's the really weird part. If that thing was just a regular airplane, it wouldn't have ended up in space, and it definitely wouldn't have disappeared like that. It's like it vanished into thin air. I've been trying to make sense of it ever since. My guess is that it somehow teleported back to wherever it came from before anyone could see it properly. Since then, I've been keeping an eye out for anything else unusual. I even bought a telescope to help me look for more strange things in the sky. Not many people believe my story, but I'm hoping you'll find it as fascinating as I do.